Awesome! Woo! Yeah! Right on! Okay. So I made this video a while ago where I talked about why I hated all the new Silent Hill games, and it started kind of a bit of a flame war. Relax, guys. It's just my opinion. Giving yourselves an aneurysm isn't going to change it. I was surprised to discover how easily stating my opinions could rustle so many jimmies, but yeah, I messed up on some facts that a little bit more research may have prevented. Homecoming was the only title developed in America specifically, and I hadn't clarified otherwise. So, people must have assumed I was saying, "Oh my god, Baka Gaijin ruined my Silent Hills. America's a dumb." Now, this is gonna shock you. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for this? Are you ready? Are you ready? No, that's not what I fucking meant! Team Silent drew heavy inspiration from American horror films like Jacob's Ladder and Session 9. Yes, horror has never been exclusive to one nationality. Glad we all agree on that. Silent Hill, however, was exclusively made in Japan, and I can't help but make the connection that as soon as Team Silent dropped it, everyone else took turns figuring out how to make it work again. I find it odd that if I say a game sucks, that somehow means I have a personal grudge against the people or races involved. I don't know Tom Hewlett or Hewlett or whatever, and I have nothing against him personally. He just happens to be the figurehead of virtually everything that's gone wrong with Silent Hill recently. Sure, Konami is the real problem here, but this guy was the producer in charge of the Silent Hill HD collection, a hasty, barely functioning port that tried to remove the original voice acting for no apparent reason, all under the pretenses of HD magic. Which is a fucking lie, by the way, and you're all falling for it. Silent Hill 2 and 3 to this day have some of the best graphics you'll ever see, and the only real differences between the old games and the HD collection are a few textures. The only barely justifiable reason this should exist is if the intent is to inform babies about this whole Silent Hill thing their parents won't shut up about. Seems more likely that Konami needed more cocaine. This guy is also in charge of the Book of Memories, which redefines the expression missing the point by adding multiplayer to a series that has always focused on being alone. I mean, come on. Portable, Silent Hill, multiplayer, dungeon crawler. One of these things really doesn't fucking belong. It's like the Silent Hill arcade shooter, but somehow infinitely more stupid. This is what we've been reduced to, people. Pretty soon they're gonna be pushing Silent Hill Babies, the animated series. I don't need to tell you how horror is completely ruined by adding multiplayer. That's completely ridiculous. It didn't work with Resident Evil. What makes them think it would work with an actually scary series? Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, it's just a spin-off. It's not part of the actual series. Newsflash, the comics are spin-offs, but characters from them show up in Downpour. Fucking lazy! How do you fuck up something so basic? Unless it's some kind of joke, it can only be an attempt to move Silent Hill in a new direction. The completely wrong one.
So starting out, you can choose from a number of different classes that you might find in real life, like Goth, or Bookworm, or Jock. But I think it still feels like an authentic Silent Hill experience.
This guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And he seems so uninterested and dispassionate. All like, yeah, we're totally gonna do something new with this series. I'm certainly not going to play Downpour if it means my money's going to this chump. I stand by my opinion that the trailers were so awful and far removed from the mood of the series that it didn't deserve to be affiliated with the series at all. And maybe I'm missing the point, but isn't a trailer supposed to give you first impressions? All you guys saying the game should be judged on its own merits are either missing the irony, or you're just in outright denial, but in what doomed universe would you not compare games that are in the same series? Probably the same universe where most video game websites give Mass Effect 3 their highest rating. In other words, this one! If Downpour had been pitched on its own, it would have been more approachable to me, but even that wouldn't have saved it from the fact that it looked boring, lazily written, about as scary as a waste paper basket, and only half as useful. If you were into Transformers when it was a thing, and you found yourself mortified over the first film from Michael Bay, something tells me you wouldn't be in a rush to watch the sequels. That's what I see when I look at Downpour. An industry doing its best to suck every rat scent out of a franchise before it drowns in a torrent of its own shit. Its fan base is already hopelessly divided, and if hearsay can be believed, Downpour hasn't received positive acclaim any more than Homecoming did. And we all know where we can find a $15 used copy of Homecoming. Maybe one day, months from now, I'll find myself in desperate need of lightening my incredibly heavy wallet, and I'll give it a look. I'll probably enjoy some things about it too, like the fact that a pickaxe can actually be swung more than 3 times without breaking like a fucking toothpick. I might enjoy some of the visuals here and there, and I may actually be somewhat pleased with the ability to run from enemies instead of having to kill them all one at a time. Eventually though, something will happen that reminds me I'm playing a Silent Hill game. You know, I'm guessing it's gonna be that Welcome to Silent Hill sign. Whatever it is, I'll be unable to enjoy the game afterwards because I'll be constantly thinking about how all of its little accomplishments are a flashy, uninspired imitation of what came before.
And then I'll light it on fire.
It's nothing against the game itself. I'm sure it's functional at best, but at what point do you have to shut out everything you know about the series in order to enjoy it? For me, that point was when they released the fucking trailer. I don't care who made the decision to put Korn there. It could have been the suits at Konami. It could have been Tom Hewlett, who I will now refer to as Mr. T. It could have been fucking Santa for all it matters. The point is it fucking blows, and it was blatantly put there to cash in on stupid kids and their money. Some of you will say my impartiality is immature. I prefer to think of it as time efficient, but I guess some people have to play a game for 20 hours before the lights in their head flicker on and they discover it's shit. I suppose I could borrow it from someone I know. Until then, I'll have to watch a walkthrough to see if that'll change my mind. Nope, it still sucks. Part 1, why it just fucking sucks. I examined the soundtrack first. I wasn't impressed. It all sounds like a boring, menial jumble of stereotypical sounds that could have been from any scary movie ever made. Even if the words Akira Yamaoka had been meticulously scooped from my brain, I would still find this to be uninspired garbage. I examined the plot. I was entertained in the sense that I got a couple of laughs out of it. Downpour seems more derivative of The Suffering where its plot is concerned. If you've never played The Suffering, it's kind of the same gig. An action horror title where a guy is imprisoned for murder, escapes, and has to fight his way through a bunch of ghouls, making moral choices along the way that determine whether he was a paragon of all things great and small or a fucking homicidal nutcase. The problem with moral choice schemes,
And there are a lot of them.
is that by having a moral choice dictate the ending, you've already determined the ending from the start. All of the character development and intrigue that would have warmed us to the protagonist and kept us guessing is abandoned due to the fact that the ending will be exactly what you chose from the beginning. Homecoming did the same shit, and it was just awful. Do you remember how awful that was? Now this one element alone can't ruin a horror game, but remember horror is nothing without a mystery, and giving the player the ability to change the outcome however they like by just pressing a button, it relieves them of the responsibility of having to figure shit out. Think for a minute about if there had been a moral choice scheme in Silent Hill 2. We would have known James killed his wife before the ending just because we were playing him out to be an asshole. James is compassionate, emotionally vulnerable, somewhat of a dork. He's prone to these strange little outbursts of anger. He was really unhinged, and the fact that we didn't really know a whole lot about him made it all the more shocking when we find out what he did. Murphy, like Alex Shepard, is just an avatar that moves from point A to point B with nothing going on in his mind other than what the player tells him to think. First scene of the game is Murphy murdering a comically fat pedophile in a cartoonishly brutal, over-the-top, ham-fisted fashion. I mean, first scene of the game, and subtlety is already out the fucking window. And it's really too bad they don't give you the moral choice to stop playing the game. They force this idea that Murphy has a dark past and he is not a good guy, so how the fuck do we sympathize with him? The writers give him no personality outside of his main objective, which was to get revenge for his son's off-screen murder.
Sounds a lot like what they did with Homecoming, doesn't it?
I'm looking for my brother Joshua.
Where's my brother?
Later, they try to play him out as tragic, but if you play him to be a dick, oops, guess he was just a psycho after all and he murdered everyone. There's no possible way to connect with Murphy because of these contradictions that arise from the moral choice aspect. Sure, they mention his hobbies here and there to fool you into identifying with him, but his sterile, completely logical reaction to everything makes him a fucking bore.
No!
The rest of the characters are just as boring. All they do is talk about the town and how it forces them to act like Silent Hill characters, as if it's some kind of terrible director. Oh, but I guess some of them are original characters from the comics, right? Right. Who gives a fuck about the comics? Every character in Silent Hill 2 through 4 is some kind of misfit, or a weirdo, or a homeless religious fanatic. Basically, Silent Hill is a place populated and visited by fucking crazy people, and Murphy acts like just some random jackoff with plot-convenient amnesia who just wandered into it, and the entire game is just him trying to get out. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Origins, a carefully constructed tour of the tropes of Silent Hill, led by your dull, lifeless tour guide, to get all the fans to shut up so they can attach Silent Hill to the title and sell more games. Revenge is a poison that begets itself. Yeah, whatever, no one cares. Revenge plots have been done to death, and have also been done better. One such being the one in Silent Hill 3 with Heather and Claudia. The revenge plot here was subtle and appropriate. Heather wants revenge for her father's murder, but she doesn't brood about it the entire game. She even admitted outright that it was probably an immature response to a situation she didn't entirely understand. And when she finally gets the chance to kill Claudia and loses the opportunity, she seems only vaguely annoyed. My point is, revenge as a main plot focus is too singular and doesn't offer a whole lot of outcomes. He either gets the revenge, or he realizes it's wrong. Congratulations, I was almost in suspense. Speaking of suspense,